chilly, unsettled weather settles in, how soon we could see significant rainfall.
I have a lot of friends that work in the Colorado area, and they're all looking to leave.
A job offer over 1,000 miles from Colorado. Why a sheriff's office 2 states away thinks it has a good shot at drawing in some Metro officers to work there.
Plus a patchwork of pandemic rules. State-level control wraps up this week, and local leaders are announcing vastly different plans.
They should be able to go socialize with other kids of their age and don't have to worry about being gunned down.
Young lives snatched away by violence.
Youth violence is more than just gun violence. It's more than just community violence.
The new plan in Denver to reach young people before it's too late. Colorful Colorado is looking awfully gray and gloomy this week, and we are in for several days of cool, wet, unsettled weather. Good evening and welcome to Denver7 News at 10. I'm Shannon Ogden.
Good evening. I'm Ann Trujillo, and thanks for joining us tonight. And we want to get right to Denver7 Chief Meteorologist Mike Nelson. And Mike, it cooled off today, and we're looking at some snow and rain tomorrow.
We are, and the day after that, and you'll get the picture. This is what it did today. It was nice out west, 68 at Grand Junction, 66 at Montrose, and even Durango was at 68 degrees, Salida at 64. But look how temperatures have dropped now. It's 26 up at Laramie, Wyoming, 32 degrees in Cheyenne, we're 37 in Denver, and there's a touch of rain and snow developing along the Front Range. This is mostly flurries and sprinkles out there. I don't expect much tonight and early tomorrow morning. Some of the mountain areas might see an inch of snow, but this is going to linger for a while, folks. That's the key thing. Chilly for the next few days, periods of rain and snow off and on right into the weekend. It's not going to be very pleasant weather, but it's needed. We'll get some decent moisture for the mountains, and it'll keep that snow melt from starting too fast in the high country as well. It's just going to be sweater weather and probably need an umbrella as well.
All right, thanks, Mike. We'll see you in a little bit. Tonight, for the first time, we are learning the identity of the man who was tragically killed in a crash over the weekend. Brad Brubaker was driving through the intersection of 32nd and Lowell just after noon on Saturday when he was T-boned. His young daughter was the only other person in the car, and she was critically hurt. In a statement, his family says they are heartbroken and now focusing all their energy on Brad's daughter and her healing. And tonight, a memorial is popping up at the crash site in the Denver Highlands neighborhood. According to a GoFundMe, Brubaker and his family lived in that area. He was a mainstay of the community. So his family is now asking for privacy. 49-year-old Patrick Layden was arrested on suspicion of vehicular homicide. Investigators believe he was speeding, ran a red light, and crashed into Brubaker's Subaru.
If you see a billboard in Denver advertising a job, you probably assume it's a position within the metro or at least Colorado.
But a sheriff's department is betting it can entice some local officers to move all the way to Washington State.
As Denver7's Liz Gilardi reports, the political climate is playing right into this hiring tactic.
A billboard for the Spokane County Sheriff, but they're not advertising in Washington. This one is right on Colfax, not too far from a Denver Police District station.
We're looking all over the United States.
The Spokane County Sheriff might be looking all over the U.S., but he only has billboards like this in Denver, Portland, and the greater Seattle area.
Those cities, their leadership has shown that they really didn't value their law enforcement, didn't stand behind their law enforcement.
We asked Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich for proof. He pointed to Colorado's recent police reform bill that ended the qualified immunity defense, which often protects police from being sued. He says he also watched how officers in Denver were treated during protests over the summer.
Because a law enforcement officer has to make a decision sometimes within split seconds. And qualified immunity, contrary to what the activists will tell you, did not protect us from being sued. It protected us from frivolous lawsuits.
Denver City Councilman Kevin Flynn says the sheriff needs to look at another question when it comes to recruiting.
I really think they're fishing in the wrong pond. You know, the real question now to be asking themselves is, why is it so hard to get people to want to move to Spokane?
Joking aside, Flynn says a recent poll showed Denverites want police staffing to stay the same or increase. And he says only 16% of people wanted to see a reduction in the number of police officers.
Fact is, we have 2 recruit classes this year, and we're not having trouble filling them at all.
As for the billboards,
when I see something like that, it makes me realize that folks outside of Denver really don't understand Denver.
Liz Gilardi, Denver7.
Now, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office has received 23 applicants so far, but couldn't tell us if anyone from the metro area had applied yet. For context, Denver police say they rarely lose officers as laterals to other law enforcement agencies. In a statement, they said the Denver Police Department and Denver community value our police officers, and the department remains committed to doing everything possible to ensure our officers have the opportunities, training, and support necessary to thrive while keeping our neighborhoods safe.
Tonight in Brooklyn Center, Minnesota, police in riot gear deployed tear gas as protesters clashed with its officers. This comes after the fatal shooting of Dwante Wright, a black man, during a traffic stop yesterday by a white police officer. Police Chief Tim Gannon described the shooting as an accidental discharge and believes the officer who fired intended to use a taser. Well, the region's already on edge, as you know, because of the trial of former police officer Derek Chauvin for the death of George Floyd.
Tomorrow, state lawmakers will debate a bill that would change the standard for murder in certain cases. It focuses on situations where someone is killed while a crime is happening. Under current law, someone can be charged with first-degree murder if a person is killed, even accidentally, while another crime is being committed, like a burglary or robbery, even if the defendant isn't the actual killer. Right now, they could face life in prison. This bill, however, would shift that standard from first-degree to second-degree murder, which would lower the prison sentence from life in prison to anywhere between 16 and 48 years. It would also lower the penalty from a Class 1 to a Class 2 felony. Well, supporters say the current standard is too harsh and can lead to long prison sentences for people who did not actively take part in a killing. Critics, however, say it's a slap in the face for families who lost a loved one in this way. Tomorrow, we'll hear from some of the families voicing their opposition to this bill, as well as lawmakers debating the bill.
Tonight, a family is grieving after a dairy worker fell into a manure pit in Greeley and drowned. Project Protect Food Systems worker says Juan Temoste died March 31st. He was operating a truck at Shelton Dairy. When it lurched forward, it sank into the pit with him inside. Co-workers were unable to get him out for 30 minutes until a helicopter arrived. He was taken to the hospital but died from injuries related to the lack of oxygen. Temoste was a migrant worker. Leaves behind a wife and 3 children in Mexico. Friends have set up a GoFundMe to support the family and pay for funeral expenses. And if you would like to help, you can find a link on thedenverchannel.com.
Come Friday, statewide pandemic restrictions come to an end. That means local leaders will set the rules in neighborhoods. The Douglas County Commissioners say they may opt out of pandemic rules proposed by their own health department, Tri-County Health. That agency serves Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas counties and has proposed a phased relaxation, of the rules, with all counties keeping the coronavirus dial for now, just stepping down by 1 level this weekend. Well, DougCo commissioners say they want to balance safety against business needs and the mental health toll of the pandemic, and they will hold a public meeting tomorrow. Tri-County Health says it believes its rules are appropriate, but respects counties' rights to opt out if they so choose. Douglas County has previously considered a permanent split from Tri-County Health. And that discussion comes as a 6th Douglas County school sends kids back to remote learning because of coronavirus outbreaks. Students at Thunder Ridge High School will start remote learning tomorrow. In a letter sent home to parents, school administrators say they have more than 5 separate outbreaks at the school. An outbreak is when 2 or more students, teachers, or staff from separate households, but in the same class or cohort, test positive. Remote learning will last 2 weeks before in-person learning resumes.
And tonight, the city of Westminster votes to end its mask mandate. City leaders say case numbers are going down, more people are being vaccinated, and they say it's already covered by mask rules from both Jefferson and Adams County. Councilors say they would consider reinstating their own mask rules again if case numbers climb.
And Boulder officials say come Friday, the state's dial system will stay in place and the county will drop down to level blue restrictions. So that means restaurants can operate at full capacity with 6 feet of distancing. Of course, that depends on case numbers staying low. By May 16th, Boulder County plans to move to level clear. That is a 90-day observation period with no restrictions. The county could restart pandemic rules if case numbers climb.
Young people in Denver are facing a spate of violence so intense now, city leaders are calling it a public health crisis.
There are no easy solutions, but the city hopes a new approach can reach young people before they get into life-threatening situations. Here's Denver7's Addie Guajardo.
It's a call that haunts parents
I'll never forget that day.
for the rest of their lives.
His best friend screaming in my ear, Miss Angel, Devari's been shot.
Angel Shabazz's 17-year-old son, Davari Armstrong, was shot and killed at a house party in Montbello last summer. He was a football player at South High School.
He was a scholar, an athlete, a leader.
With big dreams.
He knew that he was going to try to make it to the pros.
But Davari never saw graduation day.
Youth violence is a public health crisis.
Monday kicked off National Youth Violence Prevention Week.
Youth violence is real, but most importantly, it's preventable.
Denver Mayor Michael Hancock led a panel to address city efforts to tackle the crisis.
Youth violence is more than just gun violence. It's more than just community violence. It's also self-harm, including suicide, alcohol, tobacco, and substance misuse, and relationship violence.
We are the generation for change.
In 2019, Denver launched the Youth Violence Prevention Action Table to develop a public health approach to prevent youth violence. The 2021 outcome, the organization expanded youth violence program grants for community organizations, created pop-up events to reach teens, and purchased a building for a youth empowerment center set up to open in 2022.
It started for sure, but I think we also need to hit the pavement. I think we need to talk to single moms like myself.
Nothing will bring back Davari's life, but leaders hope through education they can make a difference and help save lives.
Any death among teens that is preventable is too many deaths.
Angel hopes teens think twice before pulling the trigger.
I'm going to forever, ever have to deal with this pain. When you lose somebody, this is forever. Picking up a gun to take somebody's life is not nothing that you're going to do temporarily.
Addie Guajardo, Denver7.
Wow, this is awesome.
A giving spirit even when facing his own struggles. How you, our Denver7 Gives viewers, stepped up in a major way for this big-hearted veteran.
Beyond the dispensary, a debate in Denver about opening up more pot-friendly options.
And a plan to tackle congestion. Why Amtrak says now's the time for a major rethink of rail on the Front Range.
We just had mid-40s today for highs in Denver, and I don't see much of a warming trend in the extended outlook.